How many times have you said to yourself, I'm going to succeed, and yet you keep coming up short? You probably noticed that high achievers with heart do things differently, but you just can't put your finger on it. You're curious about why high achievers accomplish more and have more satisfying relationships. It's because success is the result of your mindset and the consistent actions you take. This show is designed with your success in mind. By revealing these powerful patterns of our dynamic individuals and guest experts, you can model what they do and apply to your future success now. Let's roll up our sleeves and get started. My name is Brigitta Hoeferle, and this is the Success Patterns Show. And that is right. Welcome everyone to the Success Pattern Show with Golden Nuggets. Success patterns are more valuable than ideas. Let me explain. Ideas, while powerful, require trial and error and a lot of time to put into action. Think about manufacturing, for example. First, you have an idea, then you do a proof of concept, then working a prototype, then small production batches, and then finally, full-scale production. This takes months, maybe even years. And you maybe have met some people who are collectors of ideas, but they do little else. Forget everything you heard about ideas. You're not looking for ideas. You are looking for success patterns. Success patterns are different. Success patterns are better. Why? Well, success patterns are proven. They have a logical sequence of steps to follow. They have an action imperative, and they deliver consistent results. In this content-rich program today, you'll learn valuable success patterns with our special guest all the way from Norway. And today is all about leadership. Our guest expert today is a pilot. He's a coach. He's a leader. He's a podcaster. He's an author, and he's several other things too, which I did not mention yet. And wait till you hear this. His life experiences are literally insane. He's fluent in 4 languages. He flies aircraft since he was 15 years old. He's a diplomat and an author. This is Todd Andrewsen, and he's experienced internationally, highly skilled in culture and in diplomacy, and functions as a liaison with the defense industry. And he is here today on the Success Pattern Show. He's a host of ToddTalks. He talks about designing your best life in his podcast and launched a coaching business to go along with the podcast. And the podcast and the workshop is on overcoming sugar addiction. His military career is winding down. He's actually got 3 more months, and he's enjoyed the last 25 years in the Air Force and is about to retire from the military. He can tell stories upon stories upon stories, and I can't wait to dive into it. So as you are somewhere where you can stand up in your own room, in your own house, if you're in a car, don't do this. I would say give him a standing ovation. I'm super happy to have him here. Todd Andrewsen. Hey, Todd.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, this is so good. So 3 more months. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. It's been an adventure. Truly, the last 25 years, almost 26 now, have been an adventure. I've been on over 10 deployments, spent years overseas in war zones, and I've had the time of my life with what I've been doing. Changed my career essentially in the military 4 different times. And I've learned a lot, which I like to try and share with people to help them to design the life that they desire. And the whole reason that I talk about it like that is because people get pigeonholed, or you start doing something and you think, well, this is what I studied, this is what I need to do, and you don't think that you can shift or change. But I'm here to tell you that you can design the life you want. You don't have to do whatever everybody else is telling you that this is the route that you have to take. Had I done that, I wouldn't be here in Norway right now, because 15 years ago, 18 years ago, actually, I had a commander tell me, no, you're a pilot. You need to just follow the pilot track. And I didn't. I chose the path that I wanted to go, and I have had miraculous experiences because of it.
I want to hear more about that. I mean, I've never been in the military, not in the US and not in Germany. My husband served in Germany. But one thing that I know about military, no matter in which culture you are, saying no to your superior is actually not a thing that you would actually do. Is that right?
That is correct. You don't typically say no, but you do learn how to guide them to an answer other than what they want you to do. If you have other options that you want to seek, you politically steer your leaders towards what you want. It's not impossible.
Where did you learn that? Because that is a skill that not everyone has, to lead someone to where you want them to go, right? And you were rather young. So where did you learn that? Who modeled that for you?
Well, I grew up with 4 brothers. I was the second of 4 brothers. And in my family, we tend to be very, very knowledgeable and sure of ourselves. And so you had to get your words in and get in and learn how to work with each other to not be left behind, in a sense. And then as I got into the military, I mean, I left home when I was 17, going off to college, and then joining the military when I was 22. And I was always mature, but going on a church mission for 2 years really helped me to learn how to deal with people. I spent 2 years in Guatemala as a missionary, where I had different companions. I had to, for 8 months, I actually ended up doing marriage counseling for this couple in the little branch of the church, where I was the leader of the branch at the time. And I was 21 years old, being a marriage counselor. So I was forced into situations when I was young that taught me how to talk to people and how to help steer them, and maybe not only see things as black and white, that there are shades of gray in a lot of things.
Plenty. Wow. So growing up with siblings, being away from your own culture, being away from your own home. I mean, even if we would just take someone today from, I live in Atlanta, from their home in Atlanta and take them over to Washington State, that's already a pretty big, that's a pretty big move, if you will.
Culture shock right there.
That's true, for many reasons. So I'm really curious, and you and I have talked before, and I'm really, really curious, because I don't have the answer to that either. What do the military, leadership, podcast host, workshop creator, and overcoming sugar addiction all have in common?
What do they all have in common? They all have in common the desire to not be stuck, the desire to change, the desire to improve. In the military, we are always taught, you continue improving. You start out, like when I became a pilot, you start out as a co-pilot, then you become a aircraft commander, then you become an instructor pilot. You build every skill level that you develop builds upon it. All the other things that I do, the podcasting, the coaching, all of that is out of a desire that I have internally to become the best version of myself that I can. And I've found when I'm not working on myself, when I'm not trying to improve, I tend to slide backwards. We all do. It's like life is like a staircase. You're either going up or you're going down. You're never static. And so because of that, all of those things have in common the desire to improve, the desire to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday. And when I started working on myself, then that desire to help others achieve that really, and I've always been the person that helps my friends. I've been the one that they come to for counsel, that they came to for support. And so taking it to the podcasting and the coaching, that's just the next level of growth that I can to help other people, because I really enjoy seeing other people improve their lives.
Yeah. And the insane experience that you have and that you've gotten over the years is just so invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that. I mean, if you could put a price tag on it, what would the price tag be?
30 cents, maybe 40.
I don't think so. Listen, I really like what you just said. Life is a staircase. You either go up or you go down. There's no hanging out somewhere on the staircase unless you're in the 80s and you're in a movie like Pretty in Pink or something like that. But that's a whole different story. I think that is so valuable, especially today. You have kids, I have kids. Actually, your son's going to get married soon.
My son's getting married, and our youngest, our baby, she's 20 years old. She just returned home last week from an 18-month mission where she was in Chile, serving the church. So for 18 months. So
that's beautiful.
All of our kids are grown. We have a 25-year-old, a 24-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 20-year-old.
You get your hands full, and thank you for instilling the values that you're instilling in them. And I want to talk about exactly that generation, because everything is so quick. Everything this generation, the younger millennials and the Gen Zs, even the popcorn that only takes an hour, a minute and a half, feels like an hour, because we're standing in front of the microwave waiting for it to finally be finished popping so we can eat it, right? So I know. What are we going to, or what advice do you have for this generation to slow down so they can speed up and have patience and actually go through the steps that we all need to go through? There is no skipping steps.
There's not. One of the interesting things with this new generation is that their brains are actually wired differently than our brains are. So learning and understanding that helps us when we are talking with this generation, because they think faster, they think in a different way than you and I do. And so one of the key things that they need to know, and that helps us to be able to help them, is to talk about mindfulness. And my favorite line is from the movie The Last Samurai, where Tom Cruise's character is learning how to just be present in the moment, and to learn not to be rushing here, there, and everywhere. But as the samurai that's teaching him tells him, life in every breath, and he's showing him a cherry blossom that only blooms for 1 week a year, and he says, we take life in every breath. And it's so true that if we can focus on what we're doing now, what we're doing in the moment, while still setting goals and still planning ahead, but not necessarily being so stuck on our phones, stuck in the screens. We need to get out of the electronics and actually focus on what is going on around you, the people around you, the nature that is around you. The best thing is to get out there and not have your phone up trying to videotape everything, but to just be present, feel the wind on your face, feel the rain, or in our case, snow. We got 6 inches of snow yesterday. Feel the snow underneath your feet, listen to it crunch. But I love the life in every breath. Thank you, Brian. It's been one of my favorite phrases to use and to remind myself when I start getting frazzled. I just picture that scene and I go, life in every breath, to remember to be mindful and notice the things going on around me.
I think we should have t-shirts made, life in every breath, with a cherry blossom on it. I love that. I think that is so powerful. That was a good reminder for myself. Because I sometimes, really honest, I lose patience with this generation. Thank God, not with our kids, because I'm biased. They're the greatest kids, other than your kids, of course, and Brian's kids. By the way, Brian also, I want to share this. He worked on a C-130. Do not know what that is, back in his software engineering days, and he echoes what I said. Thank you for your service, Todd.
The C-130 is the Four Fans of Freedom. It is the best airplane in the inventory. I flew it for 10 years. I have 2,000 hours in that airplane, 1,000 of them combat time. Basically, it's the smallest of the cargo planes, and we're the ones, the C-130 is the one that moves everything within the combat zone. And so moves people and things around. Tactical airlift is what we call it. So it's a fun plane to fly.
Yeah, Brian knows a lot about this, and I know, Todd, you do too. And I think I need to just connect the two of you, and you guys can totally geek out over all of that. Todd, you have seen probably more than many of us that are listening to the show have seen in their life. Is there any regret?
One of the things that I have, of course, we all have regrets, right?
Sure.
We all have regrets, things that we wish we did differently. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I learned a long time ago, and this is something that I teach other people, is you have to leave the past in the past. Mm. You can't progress. You can't become the person you want to become if you're focused on the past. You can have regrets. You can feel bad about it, but you need to basically just take a deep breath and let it go, because nothing will change it. As bad as it was or as good as it was, nothing will change it. You learn the lessons from your past and you move on, because you can't go back and change it, but you can change the future. You can make better choices. Mm-hmm.
When you prepare for the future, and you plan, or you have, say, an imaginary mastermind, as Napoleon Hill is describing it in his great book, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. Who's in your mastermind?
Oh, I've got all sorts of people. I love listening to Jim Rohn. Mm-hmm. Jim Rohn, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale. Mm-hmm. Of course, then you've got Aristotle. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ, of course, would be in there. And also some generals from way back when. I would love to pick. Sorry about that. I would love to I would love to pick the brain of some of the people from World War II, like Patton, or there's a couple of pilots from World War II that did some amazing things, served their time and then went right back and continued when they had the option to go home, just to learn from their service-oriented nature and that the selflessness of that generation. There's a lot of people that I would bring into my mastermind from that, because there's so much we can learn from that World War II generation.
Mm-hmm. That selflessness, is that a strategy or a characteristic that you would like to have more of within you?
Probably. I mean, I feel like I have a lot of it, but I think it's something that more and more is missing in today's generation. We're more of a selfish generation than a selfless generation. And you see that perpetuating. And because of that, you then see all the chaos and negativity that is coming because of that. The more you focus on yourself, the more you focus on yourself, the harder your life is going to be. If you're focusing...
Say that again. I think that was really important.
The more you focus on yourself, the harder your life is going to be if you're focusing in a selfish way. Now, if you're focusing in a self-improvement way, you're actually going to become more selfless, and you're going to be seeking to help other people more.
So then how is selflessness and mindfulness connected?
Well, because your mindfulness, you're focused on what's around you, right? So you're seeing not just the leaves and the trees, but you're seeing the people. You're seeing your family. You're seeing your friends. You're seeing what they're going through. And you're not focused on yourself. You're seeing everything. You're living in the moment, in the present. And then the selflessness, you see what people are going through around you, and you try to help them in whatever way that you feel would be best served to help in the best way that you can. Be a servant. I'm a proponent of servant leadership. I think that the best leaders throughout history have been servant leaders. They've not been dictators. They've been servant leaders.
For sure. Now, we've seen some dictators in our history, one rather very close to my culture, and it's not endearing whatsoever.
No.
When the going gets tough, and you have been in probably more than several situations when the going got really tough, how do you maintain a clear head and stay, for lack of a better term, motivated to get through the whatever you're in?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about, what kind of difficulty we're talking about. Because when it was war zone difficulties, being shot at or planes breaking, I actually slowed down. I would become more relaxed. The more chaotic it got, the more relaxed I was, and was able to just still move at a fast pace. But without it was actually, I was less stressed the more chaotic it got. Just an interesting fact of my personality.
Is there like a breathing technique that you use?
No, it was just a mental tick. Basically, that's interesting. Can't do anything about it. Keep moving on. I learned a long time ago when I went through basic training that many of the things in the military, but in life, it's a game. And if you treat it like a game, you can overcome most stressors, most things that throw people off and make them want to jump off buildings. You realize that it's just a game. And you don't need to be so overwhelmed if you look at some of the biggest stressors in your life as a game. We used to tell our kids, if there's a situation where you're around some really negative people in your life, well, turn it into a game and see who can get the most negative comments made to them. I learned that from a Dr. Lund. He has a eternal family discourse, and that was one of the games he taught was look, if you have somebody that's just poison in your life that you can't get rid of because they're family, well, treat it like a game and he would pay the kids to whoever had the most negative comments to them got an ice cream, and it went from the kids feeling so bummed out at having all these negative thoughts or negative things told to them that they made it a challenge to see who could get the most negative comments toward them. And so the negative comments just bounced off of them. When you treat life like a game in that way, when you learn the rules of the game, suddenly things that you used to take so personally, they're like Teflon. They bounce right off.
And it takes the seriousness that we give it totally away, just dissolves it.
Yeah.
It makes it fun. I love that. I'm totally
life is fun.
Oh,
life is fun. I'm 48 years old and I have had a blast. We always have fun.
Yeah.
Because life is too short. Now that, don't get me wrong, I can be serious. When I need to be serious, I can be serious. But again, that's part of the game, knowing when you need to be serious and knowing when you can tell the dirty jokes, knowing when you can know it. I have a very dark sense of humor. So knowing when you can have that dark sense of humor, I mean, just case in point, I know this is totally off topic, but one way you deal with stress when you're a pilot in a war zone, right? So one of the jokes we had in the C-130 community was, when your plane's going down and you're crashing, what's the last thing to go through the co-pilot's mind? The navigator. Because he stands right behind the co-pilot.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's morbid. It's completely
very morbid.
But that's the way that we deal with stressful situations. In the military, there's a lot of dark humor.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we deal with dark forces, and you have to be able to laugh at the darkness. You have to be able to laugh at the darkness, otherwise you get succumbed to it. Why do so many people have PTSD? Because they go through traumatic experiences and internalize it instead of learning how to shake it off, because you internalize it rather than realizing it's a very morbid game, but it is a game.
Yeah. And clearly Brian says there's no ejection seats either. So I know that the two of you are going to have a great time together. I can't wait to hear all the stories. And we got to just do a good meetup in Florida when you're in Florida.
Absolutely.
Once you leave Norway. So this has just been so insightful and so much fun. And I just love, and I'm going to echo what Brian said, and I didn't share that here, but he says, Brian said that he's met and worked with a lot of pilots, and Todd is very different from all of them in all of the good ways, in all of the good ways. So,
well, thank you. I take that to heart, because I've always made a point of being different, not being too serious.
Yeah.
Because life's too short.
Life's too short and life's too serious, and people take themselves too serious all together. So, Todd, I know people love you. I mean, there were people that are mentioning here on the thread that, oh my gosh, I have other things to do, but this is such a great conversation. They're just going to ignore all of the emails and WhatsApps and text messages that are coming in because they want to stay present to our conversation. How do people get in touch with you?
So I can be reached via email at ToddTalksLLC@gmail.com.
Let me find that.
Or I also have a link. It's a magic.ly/ToddTalks. And that link goes to it. It's an overall link. It has my podcast link, my Shopify store link, link to a couple other things I can't remember at the moment. But basically everything you need to contact me is in there.
So they either going to email you, Todd, ToddTalks LLC @gmail.com. So ToddTalks LLC @gmail.com. Or they even easier, click on the Magic.ly link. That's magic, MAGIC.ly/ToddTalks. That's with 2 Ds, ToddTalks. Todd, I know that you're going to get some great emails from incredible people because you have so much energy in a really, really good way. And that's why we connected in the first place when we first connected. And I'm getting on course here. So we're going to have you back on the show. Once you're back in the States, it's only going to be a few more months. I can't wait till you and I break bread in Florida or in Atlanta or both places. And I look forward to seeing you, man.
Ditto.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Guys, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're going to do the same thing again next week, same time, same place. Until then, ciao and bye for now. Thank you for tuning in, and you will notice opportunities to apply success patterns daily while eagerly anticipating next week's content-rich success patterns.